Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome to another League of Legends guide. Today we are covering one of my favorite top laners in the whole game. Top lane, Renekton.
As I live, all will die.
Renekton is a very tanky top laner with great wave clear and built-in sustain. He's able to instantly clean up those waves with his Q and E, and also gets the sustain from his Q. He then also has the benefit of not using mana. He never has to worry about keeping enough mana to pull off a combo. He then has a very strong built-in escape. As long as he can hit an enemy with the first E, he can use his E a second time and make a massive gap. With the Black Cleaver Ravenous Hydra build, he's also got relatively high burst. Now we don't always go for this build, but we do try to get it as often as we can, especially if we are snowballing. Lastly is his obnoxiously strong lane phase. He definitely wins the majority of matchups, but he does struggle a lot against some ranged champions. Stuff like Quinn and Teemo are rather hard for him, because even if he does get on top of them, they can blind him and reduce a lot of his damage. His last con is the fact that he falls off late game. This is something pretty much everybody already knows. He is insanely strong in the early and mid game with that ultimate he has, but as soon as he gets to the late game, he is definitely not the champion he was once. For our Masteries, we go 18 Ferocity and 12 Resolve, grabbing Fervor of Battle as our Keystone Mastery. This is a great way of adding extra damage in his combos, and really works well on Renekton. These Masteries I take almost 100% of the time, but if we were against a really hard matchup, we could go for Grasp or something instead. But against a traditional matchup, make sure you're grabbing Fervor, so you can bully that enemy champion even harder. For our runes, we go Attack Damage Reds, Armor Yellows, Magic Resist Blues, and Attack Damage Quints. This adds some very solid damage so we can push waves faster and put out more harassment on the enemy champion. We then of course have that Armor and Magic Resist just so we're a little bit tankier in that top lane. For our summoners, we have a couple different options, but first we'll want to grab either Flash or Ghost. Flash is definitely a more reliable escape, but since we do have our E, Slice, and Dice, we can have Ghost instead for its increased mobility in teamfights. For our second summoner spell, we'll want either Teleport or Ignite. Teleport is my personal favorite since it is great for split pushing. We'll be able to put out tons of pressure on the side lanes and still be able to make it to teamfights and objectives. It's then also great if we are against a hard lane matchup because they may push us out of lane and then push the wave, but with Teleport we can get back so we don't miss CS and XP. Now although Teleport is great, Ignite is still a really good option. This would be great if we wanted some added kill pressure, so we would have an easier time snowballing. I myself do like having Teleport and Flash as my summoners, but I've seen Ignite and Ghost work well as a combination as well. This would be great if you are looking to all in the enemy champion over and over again. So let's kick off our abilities by looking at our passive, Reign of Anger. So instead of having mana or energy, Renekton generates 5 Fury with every basic attack. He then loses 4 Fury per second if he hasn't dealt or received damage in the last 12 seconds. When he then has 50 or more Fury, his next basic ability consumes 50 Fury to enhance its effects, though it generates no Fury in the process. Then there is the second little part, Renekton gains 50% more Fury from all sources while below half health. So this is a pretty good passive. It's really nice that you don't have to use either energy or mana, and you instead kind of have to manage your Fury and empower the right abilities at the right time. When you are in the lane, try to auto attack every so often so you are gaining some Fury so you can empower those abilities as much as possible. So let's look at your main ability here, your Q, Cull the Meek, and this is the one you're going to be empowering the most often. So when you activate this, it deals physical damage to all nearby enemies, and you gain 2.5 Fury for each non-champion hit, and 10 Fury for each champion hit. It has a pretty nice bonus AD ratio at 80%. So this is where you also get your sustain. Renekton heals himself for every enemy hit up to a cap, healing for triple the amount against enemy champions. When you're above 50 Fury and you have Reign of Anger, Cull the Meek deals 50% additional damage, and it triples the healing and healing cap. So that right there is why you are empowering this ability the most often. It does the best damage, and the sustain goes through the friggin' roof. Use this to clear minion waves and harass the enemy champion as much as you can. There's many different combos with this ability, but we will be talking about that a little later on in the guide. But now, let's look at our W, Ruthless Predator. So when you activate this, Renekton's next basic attack gains bonus attack range and strikes his target twice, stuns them for 0.75 seconds, and deals modified physical damage. Each hit applies on-hit effects and grants Fury, and this is the main reason we go for a Black Cleaver and Fervor of Battle, because both get applied with this ability. The physical damage per hit is pretty good, 75% AD, and considering it does hit twice, this does have a 150% AD ratio. When we have Reign of Anger, Ruthless Predator strikes Renekton's targets 3 times instead, and deals 50% additional damage and increases the stun duration to 1.5 seconds. So this is obviously a very solid empowerment as well. By using the empowered version of this, you're already going to have the Black Cleaver stacks, as well as Fervor. I like to empower this if I am in a 1v1 duel, and I can really make great use of that increased stun duration. Generally, in teamfights, your Q Empower will be a lot more effective considering you will be hitting many targets and you'll be healing for a lot at the same time. It's also worth noting as well at the end here that it does reset your auto attack timer, so generally you'll want to follow it right after an auto attack to increase your damage just by a little bit. Now for the first part of your E, Slice. So, you dash in the target direction and deal physical damage to all enemies you pass through, and you generate 2 Fury per non-champion hit and 10 per champion hit. If you do hit an enemy, you also gain the ability to use Dice, which is the second part of your E, for 4 seconds. This ability, yet again, has a really respectable AD ratio at 90%. To instantly clean up minion waves, you can use your Slice to go through them, use your Q, and then use your E, Dice, to go back through them and delete the whole wave. This, of course, is also great for engaging or escaping. But let's look at the second part of that E, Dice. So Dice does the exact same thing as Slice, but it also has Reign of Anger. When you are using Dice to go through an enemy champion with Reign of Anger, you will reduce their armor by between 15 and 35%. So of course, this is a great empowerment if you are against a tanky target with a lot of armor. So basically, if you're in a team fight, empower your Q. If you're in a 1v1 duel, empower your W, and if you are against a tanky champion with a lot of armor, empower your E. It's also worth noting that you can bank up your Fury, so you can use 2 different empowered abilities, so make sure you keep that in mind. Now, his ultimate, Dominus. This is a buff that lasts 15 seconds, and you gain bonus health, increase in size, and you also instantly generate 20 Fury. While you are in this state, you will deal magic damage each half second to all nearby enemies and generate 5 Fury per second for a total of 75 over that duration. The magic damage per half second is between 20 and 60, plus 10% AP. If somebody was to be near you for that full duration, it would deal between 600 and 1800 plus 300% AP. Now obviously we don't really have AP, but that base is still massive. Typically, people aren't going to be standing near you for that full duration. They're going to die or kill you quicker than that, but it can still deal a lot of damage. This is great to pop when you are engaging on an enemy, if you're in the middle of a team fight, or to bait somebody under tower when they think you're low on HP, just to get a bunch and kill them instead. For our skill order, we put a point into our ultimate whenever we can, and then focus on maxing our Q, then our E, and finally our W. The only thing I might change in this skill order is getting a point at level 1 in our W instead of our Q, depending on the matchup we're against. If we're against a champion who's going to try to all-in us really early on, then we'll need that point in their W for the stun, otherwise, stick to the Q. Our first combo is our main trading combo when we are level 3 and we have a point in every ability. We start by using our E, Slice, to close the gap, then we auto-attack, follow it up with a W, Ruthless Predator, follow it up with another auto attack, then follow that with a Q, Cull the Meek, then auto attack once more, and use our E to jump back out. This will deal an insane amount of damage on that champion in that trade, and they're not even going to be able to put any back out, considering they'll be stunned from the Ruthless Predator. When we are post level 6 and we have a Tiamat, or of course a Ravenous Hydra, we will first start by popping our Dominus. This will now sound a lot like the level 3 combo. We jump in with our E, Slice, then auto attack, follow it up with a W, Ruthless Predator, and quickly use our Tiamat to save some time. They did kind of change this a long time ago with the Tiamat not saving as much time as it used to, but it still saves some time if you do activate it during the W. We then use our Q, and then auto attack, and at this point we can use our E, Dice, to go forward and stick onto the enemy, or of course we could jump away if we needed to. The early game is where Renekton's strength lies. Unless you are against a hard matchup, you'll want to either zone, deny, all in, or force the enemy top laner out of lane. Don't be over aggressive before you are level 3, but once you are level 3, you can pretty much out-trade the majority of champions out there, so that's when it's time to be aggressive. Also, make sure you're not wasting your Fury. Don't be sitting at 100 Fury, it's a complete waste. It's great for adding extra damage or sustain in the lane. The last thing you're going to need to do is ward your lane. You're going to be a little bit pushed in your lane considering you are using your Q rather often in trades, and that will push the lane. In the mid game, try to get down the top lane tower as soon as you can if you haven't already. Then you're going to want to start roaming to help your team. If you feel like your team is stronger than the enemy, try forcing fights at Dragon to snowball your lead. If they don't show up, then simply take Dragon. Your goal in a mid-game teamfight is to either dive into the backline and kill the enemy carries, or peel for your own. After you've built your first few items, make sure you're itemizing properly. If the enemy mid laner was AP and is getting rather big, of course you'd want to prioritize getting some magic resist items before you get armor. In the late game, you're going to start to fall off a little bit. If your team is capable of winning a team fight, then you're going to want to force them at objectives whenever you can. And if you feel that your team is weaker, then your goal is going to be to split push and delay the game until your team is strong enough. When you're finally at the point where your team can fight, you're going to want to look for dragons and barons, and you may also need to buy an oracle alteration to help your team clear out vision. Hopefully they will be forced to engage into an unfavorable position, and you can destroy their team. So here are the first set of hard matchups, and of course it's Quinn and friggin' Teemo. Quinn is definitely our hardest matchup though. She's able to stay at a distance and poke us down. When we do go for an engagement, she can then either blind us or just jump away. The best you can do here is to start a Doran's shield to reduce that poke as much as you can, and grab whatever farm you can. For Teemo, well, it's the exact same shit as Quinn. When we go for an engagement, there's a blind, and he can also gain a lot of mobility, so he can kite us. Again, start a Doran's shield, and get whatever farm you can. So here is the second list of hard matchups. These ones are a lot more winnable than the other ones, but they're still rather hard. So first is Pantheon, yet again making another appearance in a hard matchup list. He's able to stay at a distance and poke us down. When we go for an engagement, he's also got his passive shield, which can stop a nice chunk of damage. In this matchup, you're probably going to want that Doran's shield again, because you're going to be taking spears all day long. Next up is Kennen, yet another ranged champion who has a lot of poke and decent mobility. Yet again, pick up that Doran's shield and make sure you get that Spirit Visage rather early on. Last we have Kayle, and it's pretty much for the exact same reasons, except she's even harder to itemize against. She's able to stay at range and kite us with her slow. She's then got that notorious AP/AD on hit type of build, which does a nice mixture of damage and is really hard to itemize against. Now, last but not least, our item build. For the starting items, you're going to want either a Doran's Blade or a Doran's Shield, plus Health Potion and Warding Totem. If it's a rather easy matchup, grab that Doran's Blade, and if it's going to be a struggle, grab the Doran's Shield. So for our first core build, we have the offensive Snowball type. We take the Black Cleaver, add a Ravenous Hydra, and a Sterak's Gauge. We will do a ton of damage, be able to insta-give squishy targets, yet be a little bit tanky at the same time from the Sterak's. For the defensive build, we still keep that Black Cleaver because it works so well with our W, then we add a Sunfire Cape just to add a little bit more damage and works great with our ultimate, and then get that Spirit Visage. The Spirit Visage is also a fantastic item on Renekton, since you do have healing from our Q. For the item pool, we have all the different types of boots. Obviously, the Ninja Tabis are great against AD teams, the Merc Treads are great against AP teams with CC, and the Boots of Swiftness are great just for increased mobility. For the rest of our item pool, we of course have the Dead Man's Plate for that mobility, armor, and health. Randuin's is also fantastic on Renekton since we are going in melee range and we will have that nice slow, but we also get tanky, and we do have the reduced crit damage. Against full AD teams, like always, we have the Thornmail, just so we can return some damage and make them kill themselves. In the really late game, Guardian Angel is a fantastic item as well, because sometimes one death can cost you the game, but at least with a Guardian Angel, you can come back to life. Maw can also be a decent pickup against high AP teams, but it's not something I pick up rather often because I do prefer the shield from the Sterak's. We can then always turn our Ravenous Hydra at any point into the Titanic Hydra if we do need a larger health pool. Finally, if we are playing that split push game, there's always the Zizirot Portal. So for an offensive full build, we'll take that first core, add some Ninja Tabis assuming there's some solid AD on their enemy team, pick up a Dead Man's Plate for some nice tankiness, and the Spirit Visage for that magic resist and increased healing. We will be a really tanky frontline bruiser, yet have some really solid damage for deleting squishy targets. For our second full build, if we are wishing to be more defensive, we'll take our second core build, add the Ninja Tabis, Dead Man's Plate, and if they are a very AD heavy team, put in that Thornmail. So that covers everything for top lane Renekton. If you guys enjoyed the guide, make sure you thumb it up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. You can also find a nice list of our guides on our website, egamingtv.com, and we do skin giveaways on our Twitter at egaming_TV, so if you're interested in free skins, make sure you head over there. But anyways, thank you guys a ton for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next videos. Peace!
Here we go, you and I, destination who decides, take off, crash, land, I don't wanna lose tonight, take a chance, let it go, will we make it, never know, I'm so glad I kept you, could have left you, let's make room to grow, here we go, you and I, destination who decides, take off, crash, land, I don't wanna lose tonight, take a chance, let it go.